Good morning, everyone. It's quite an overwhelming moment for us to be doing this at the 7th edition of Engagement. A hall full of 500 people, more than 1,000 odd overall attendees to be looking about retention as a subject. Very, very exciting. So, well, glad to have you here, Nitin. So, everybody, of course, would know the Adani Group and the fact that Nitin leads the digital operations, Chief Digital Officer for the Adani Group, and the largest mandate on the Adani Digital Labs, which he's been a founding leader with. So, for a group that size as Adani, to have a BU, if I were to call it fairly, of that nature, and to have that kind of mandate sounds quite a great, let's say, conviction at the level from the top, right, Nitin? Do you want to talk a little bit about that part of the story?
Sure. So, Ankur, first, thanks for having me here. And I'm honored and very fortunate to speak in such a forum. After Ronnie is going to be a little tadka and a masala. It's going to be very desi. So, coming to the question, so Adani Group has been known as a B2B conglomerate. Most of us seen them in ports, airports, mines, electricity, gas, very traditional businesses. Not many realize that we are one of the largest consumer-facing companies. How is that what I'm saying? We operate 7 airports, including Mumbai. 85 million unique consumers fly from our airports in a year. We are the largest FMCG brand with Fortune, close to 300 million consumers, with 85 to 90 million unique households is what we touch base. We supply electricity to half of Mumbai. We are also one of the private and largest PNG and CNG player. And there are 2 more, of course, real estate and capital. But if you put together, we are talking about 400 to 450 million captive consumers. And if you just focus on the airports, at least in India, not globally people have done it, but in India, no airport communicates with you. As a traveler, you get owned by airlines, and previously I was the founding leader for 60 Digital, so I know the Indigo story. So airlines owns you, OTAs owns you, the cab provider owns you. They own the data. So when you get into the airport, you don't actually interact with the airport at all. You use the services, you fly off, nothing. No digitization on the core system, also a decade old. So the mandate was to create an integrated platform from the group and put together under 3 core pillars of common loyalty program. This is the board behind where I sit, and have a common data lake for a better segmentation and put together with a single sign-on. By doing only these 3 things, in 4 to 5 years, the group will have 500 to 600 million consumers on a common platform with almost zero CAC. Almost no cost per acquisition.
Sure, the zero CAC would kind of raise a lot of eyebrows here. But this backdrop is something I picked up from when we were having a Zoom call with him to prepare for this conversation. I saw it behind his office and I said, okay, this looks interesting. Can we just zoom into this for our conversation and really talk about the audacity of that vision? You heard about 500 million odd customers in a captive ecosystem. And we got some examples of what that experience would look like. And just to get that flavor out, perhaps, Nitin, I would love for you to share some examples of what might happen in the end state with a consumer experience.
Sure. So, Ankur, it's a very, very good question. So, Rome is not been built in a day. Similarly, Burj Khalifa was not built in a day. A vision of this sort had to start with a first tiny step. What was the first tiny step? What was the first obvious step for us to take? We picked airports. And I'm very proud right now to share that we've launched Adani One. Adani One is in alpha phase. It's close to 4 months now. 6 million unique consumers have got onboarded, and 4 use cases has been done Which are those? We are the first platform from Southeast Asia to offer integrated air tickets. No airport offers airline ticket booking. OTS does, or airlines platform does. Guaranteed cab booking. We spoke to 35,000 consumers. 80% people said that getting a cab is the biggest pain point, because the moment you call the driver, he's saying, "Was mujhe nahi jana hai," or you kept waiting. Then we're in the city of Mumbai, so we have to talk about booze. So duty free, and we build that on the convenience part. So you can actually book the duty free, your booze, what you want. And of course, somebody is going to give you rewards buying a booze. So that's an added advantage. And then the Pranam meet and greet services. So the vision is to integrate door to door, what means all the 20 use cases in the travel ecosystem. And this is only one category I'm talking about. I've not touched what can happen on the electricity, what can happen on the gas use cases. So the first phase is about digitizing the airport ecosystem along with the travel needs.
So the examples I heard from you and Gaurav during our prior conversations, which got me really excited. The first one was, if in Mumbai, you're on an Adani electricity connection, you pay your bills on time. Next time you're at the Mumbai airport, you might just get your Starbucks coffee for free. Now, wouldn't that be an amazing kind of an experience? The other one that you just told me yesterday was about if you're using our smart meters on the electricity and your air conditioning is kind of causing your bills to spike, you might just see a BNPL offer in your mobile application to buy a new air conditioner. Now, the level of underground work that it takes to pull off something that, that sounds pretty simple is quite a thing in my impression, right? And the whole end state sounds quite amazing, which is where the whole idea of simplifying digital experiences at that kind of scale, 500 million Indians experiencing this across the many touch points that Adani Group has with them, is quite a fascinating play, right? So, give me more examples of this, because what I want to do is have the audience people to understand what that amazing Nirvana picture looks like.
So, yeah, it's very easy to do a blue sky thinking and put all the great examples sounding rosy and good. There's a lot of heavy lifting required. Uh, he gave you example of paying your bill on time or prepaying and then getting points and getting your favorite coffee on the airport. It requires a loyalty program which needs to get integrated into very service-driven platform end to end. So far, very large conglomerates are struggling having a common loyalty program integrated seamlessly. So the benefit of building organically, there is an edge, and benefit of taking small tiny steps also have an edge, so you don't fall. That will definitely see a day of light. And of course, without a fintech layer, you are nothing. So understanding the customer persona as well as the segment, it's imperative that we end up enhancing the experience by offering basis the need state. So he said that, okay, with the smart meters, we know that how much electricity you consume. Basis the electricity, I can say, okay, you use this brand AC, which is a 5-star AC, and this money will get adjusted in your 2-year cycle. So you are actually not paying anything extra. Now that's awesome. Do you want it, or will that add value? Absolutely. But will that require another 2-3 quarters of work? I think yes. And will that be worthy from a customer perspective? Yes. Will that give me a great profit margin? I don't think so. But will that give me great customer loyalty and customer being the brand ambassador? I think the answer is yes. So that is what we want to achieve.
Sounds amazingly ambitious. And in our conversations, it came across that you had a fairly mature thought process on how the underlying stack has to be built, right? Instead of one comprehensive large play, you would want to build your stack more consciously, more curated, and upfront investments in integrations, if that happens, that's okay. Do you want to delve a little bit into this? Because I think a lot of people tend to get puzzled on how to make these choices.
Yeah. So, see, one, you need to understand that and Roni talked about it, that being an entrepreneur and being an entrepreneur. So I got to do this from scratch. right? Got to start from day zero, got to decide what we can do, and pick the best of the best uh, strategic partners in our journey. So rather than going with the world's most famous integrated cloud stack or the platform, we chose the best in the category for our journey. So whether it was cloud, we have a dual cloud, whether it was CDP, whether it was a security layer. So in this era, if you don't get to, as a leader, if you don't get to choose the best and only look at the cost and don't understand the long-term benefit of the right strategic partnerships, I think it'll be foolish of us to uh, take that step. So rather, we have a very clear vision. We have not taken decision basis the cost, but we have taken the decision basis the ROE, which is return on experience. And as we have gone live, we are realizing that how magic can happen if you have right partners with you on that journey. And digitization and digital transformation both. So of course, digital transformation is a very abused word. For digital transformation, you need basic digitization of the systems. So it's not only the customer layer. For any of the use cases, the core systems for airports to have digital experience, the POS, which was all traditional, and that's how it was from last 20, 30 years. It was 2-year journey of digitizing the POS to ePOS now.
You mentioned about the agility and quick wins in some sense, right? So in terms of the tech stack, the flexibility of it or the agility of making iterative experiments and learning and then evolving from there, how does that influence the choices you're making on the tech stack today?
No, very smart question again, Ankur. You're beating me on every step. So see, the A/B testing framework or a A/B/C/D testing framework is the only way you can validate your thought process. Otherwise, only the assumption and perception. And I really can't say that what I've done 2 years, 3 years back will work here at Adani now. So if you don't have that framework without getting to code change and on the fly, if you can't do it and you are still hanging with a one fit for all type of a stack, it's a suicidal mission. Most people can't even tell and measure that what is the CAC for one user segment, how ATV is increasing and what is getting attributed to that ATV, how much margin you're making. Maybe I'm sounding like a more Bania than a Punjabi, and I'm sorry for this, but you know, ultimately you have to get the ROI out.
Which is going to be an interesting thread on its own, but you're working on a fairly traditional kind of business, fairly long roots across lots of dimensions, and now you're trying to digitally transform the organization across several tentacles. So from a mandate and then the conviction and then the people management side of things to really drive change at a certain velocity, what are the things that you thought were helping you speed this up?
I'll be absolutely brutally honest here. Uh, Anybody thinking that working for a big conglomerate is fancy? Was is it's absolutely not. It's a live grill or a tandoor. Uh, you need to have audacity and resilience to understand, to listen to know, and kept waiting and kept trying and kept knocking. Making a digital twin sounds very fancy. Uh, to create any impact at this stage, you need buy-in from all your business CEOs, stakeholders, partners, and there is so much when he said that traditional business is new age. You are actually leapfrogging, you are actually jumping, you are actually going from 0 to 10 and not to 0 to 1. It's daunting, is very challenging. Not at all a easy job. The only thing I think worked in my favor, I onboarded much smarter leaders, and it's a people's game, right? The type of people you got in from the startup ecosystem at Adani, and I've been empowered and given that free hand. So we are close to 485 folks onboarded. Like first 2 years, that means every single working day somebody has been onboarded from the startup ecosystem to Adani for that digitization, and 200 partners. So close to 700 people are doing this, and this is not in Ahmedabad. This is in Gurgaon. So ADS is in Gurgaon.
So that's what I was going to get to, right? You've been empowered and you've been mandated to do this. And the people choices you're making is a very distinct kind of audience profile compared to what you would have elsewhere at Adani Group. Would it be fair to say then that for a group to have that kind of ambitious digital transformation goal, it would need a leader who is able to think digital natively and also an entirely disjointed team, because you probably would want 5-day work weeks, which would be a cause of alarm at the larger Adani Group if somebody were to ask for, right?
Yeah, to a some extent, absolutely. It requires a, rather than a visionary, you need a doer. You need a very ziddi guy, right? So you don't take it no as a no. Otherwise, you can't do it, because the number of times you will get questioned for the simple strategy uh, can actually take away all the peace and the you know, the mental calmness one will having. Uh, but to give it to the leadership of the Adani Group, I think they are vested. They are supporting it by financially as well as opening up the ecosystem, and they are doing it absolutely beautifully.
So the digital natives should be fairly persistent and energized. What would be the message for the other gang who has done amazing work from the non-digital native side of the world? They've been great brand marketers, probably great operations people, but now they probably feel a little threatened by the way digital transformation or these things are coming into the conversation and probably hijacking the agenda in some sense. What would be a message for that gang to be either embracing this change or be a part of this change themselves? How do they, participate?
So, and again, I'll take Roni's example. Change is the only constant, right? So, change is essential. And what I've realized that I don't need to be a hero. I just need to be a cameraman or a director. They need to be a hero, right? So I get a buy-in, and it needs to be their project and their propaganda that this needs to happen. You give the credit. Ultimately, it's your work. So when the world is seeing it, you are any which ways enjoying it. So it's better rather than putting a flag. It's getting the work out. Adani one is out. I request everybody here to give a shot, download the app, see what it is. It's 1% of the 100% what we want to achieve, but the 1% is there.
So no wonder the CAC of the app looks almost like what, 5 rupees or something? Or practically nothing, right?
Yeah, so CAC for the CAC for my sampling business. So what we do on the traditional side on digitizing the LOBs which we have, which the group had, is one thing. But at the same time, ADL is getting his own revenue streams. Adani sampling is our business. We are going to get co-brand on the travel space. We have many more flights as our business OTA piece. So, for example, when you get into airport, you get something for free. You give a consent, you get the data. We hand over the product. We actually end up making money on that.
So
Right?
that's a very promoter, very in some sense Marwadi way of doing business, but interesting because somebody else as a startup trying to do anything half as ambitious as this would have burnt I don't know how many $1 million before they got to this point. Back to the people side of topics, Nitin, since we spoke about the legacy people having the mindset and that needs to embrace change, what are the key mistakes you think people are making in that journey of transformation? From either choosing to embrace and upskill themselves or from a tech stack choices perspective, what do you think are the biggest mistakes you see people making?
I'll not say mistakes. I think they have done, and so if somebody has taken the business from 5 billion to 300 billion, it's fancy, boss. But from 300 billion to 3,000 billion, you need a new way of doing it. The same old way will not work. I think that change is coming, and I keep saying that Adani Group is one of the most exciting startups of India. And ADL being that incubation, we are the change leaders. Uh, and I'll repeat that bringing change or leading change is not a cakewalk. it has its own struggles.
Would you tell us a little bit about the build-up journey? So now you're 700 people or something you mentioned. What were the starting points? How did you build this organization? What was the first bunch of hires? Was it the interim leaders? Was it like bottom up? Did you hire like a couple of top guys first? How did this play out?
It's a trade of how I build and what I do. So I'll take a step back. I'll tell you where I've worked. So Adani Group, previous life Indigo, previous life Quicker Group, Quicker Common Floor, Baba Jobs at Home Diva, Yatra Travel Group is in town. Then Info Edge, Naukri, 99 Acres, Jeevan Sathi Shiksha. Step back, it was India Times, Rediff, Bharti Airtel, a few of my own startup journeys in between. The only way you can actually build amazing teams is by poaching. I poached. I'm one of the most hated guys in the ecosystem. I think all the CEOs who I've worked with, they hate me.
You're going to bring in is what you're going to take out as well. Is that what you're saying?
Huh?
Whatever people you bring in are the same people you'll take out along with
No
you.
more, na, because it's a bagpipe, additional bagpipe. Yeah. So when I started, I was a design guy, right? And I only learned one thing, that any business is in the business of getting people and selling to people. So if I just sort out people, everything else gets sorted out. And that's the only way how I've reached there. I'm from a very, very modest background, no pedigree of education, very desi. And you must have realized by now, after Ronnie, लोग लग रहा होगा यार इसको क्यों बिठाया was. But it's about getting smart people. Just get the guy, empower him, and let him do the magic. So out of 10, 8 times you will see the magic. 2 times आपको हो जाएगा भसड़. But you know, that's the cost of doing it. But 8 out of 10 is a good success.
So people first, job later, job description later.
Job,
or...
so job, boss, you have to understand that what he wants to achieve, right? If the guy's problem, see, people only talk about कि यार ये प्रोजेक्ट करना है, ये माइलस्टोन है, ये अचीव करना है. कोई पूछता ही नहीं है कि फैमिली में सब ठीक है, you know, do you need any help, कुछ चाहिए, right? So there is no human touch. If you sort out कि उसको चाहिए क्या यार, उसका need क्या है, वो बैकग्राउंड से आया, उसको अभी दाल रोटी का टेंशन है, उसको घर नहीं है, तो उसको just make sure यार उसका घर sort out करा दो. किसी की एजुकेशन नहीं है, उसको executive MBA करा दो. Then you get 200% out.
So motivated guy would outrun a smarter guy who's
just help him
less motivated.
Just help him accelerate, यार.
Yeah.
If he is succeeding, you are automatically succeeding. वो नीचे आप तो बढ़ ही रहे हो, right?
So how many rounds of interviews happen when you recruit a team?
I don't take interviews. I have conversations. मुझे वो
Sure.
10 मिनट में मतलब giving you an exercise and a PPT is the last thing one should do, यार. वो तो copy paste है, boss.
So what do you look for in people when building this out? Because one of the things we tend to somehow struggle with, and you know, we've been having conversation with people at Deloitte and PwC in the consulting ecosystem, the talent supply in this whole ecosystem and their ability to understand the nature of the problem statement and break it down. You know, when we spoke about the ambition that you laid out, that is a very educated kind of way of looking at things, because you're able to understand that this data is going to come from here, transform in this fashion, be a part of this lake, be a part of this transformation, and then give me an output here. It's not an easy thing to solve.
So Ankur, I didn't had a single JD when I built this team. I didn't had a JD. I met people, whatever I liked, I picked. I said, तेरे को क्या करना है यार?
Sure.
And even today, I don't hire on JDs.
So attitude versus hard skills, mein attitude wins.
Hunger and attitude.
Hard skills
solve कर लेंगे. यार वो training दे देगा.
Training से solve हो जाता है. So in your impression, in terms of the talent supply, have you had a challenge building this team out? Are there enough and more people available out there to?
Out of 485, I have onboarded. I have post or through my network 465. 20 लोगों के लिए पैसे खर्चा है, boss.
Fairly interesting. So at least from that perspective, you're saying there's no dearth of people available outside if you have that clarity of thought.
If you can sell everybody is a seller. If you can't sell, you should not breathe, boss. You have to sell internally, you have to sell externally, you have to sell at your house, you have to sell outside. So selling is an art.
So, you know, I've,
You need to sell the vision to the guy. कि उसका फायदा होने वाला तेरा नहीं.
you know, I have the last 5 minutes left, so I'm going to get a little personal. I saw you take
You
a
are
walk
already
at 10
getting
p.m.
personal.
I saw him take a walk after dinner at 10 p.m. I saw him take a cycling in the gym at, I don't know, 6:30 a.m. in the morning. So I'm curious, what's the source of all this energy? Because the kind of things you're pushing need an insane amount of energy. So what drives you? What's your motivator? What's the source of energy?
Only one life, yeah. It's, I don't know whether I'll be there tomorrow or not. So, ये conversation, I'm sure, अच्छी है, बुरी है, but you know, I'm part of your life because you are already giving me 30 minutes, right? You're vested. We know each other. और मतलब अच्छी रहेगी बुरी मुझे बुला नहीं पाओगे. That I know. क्योंकि I have spoken from here. I'm not adding any bullshit filter here or a vacuum. सच है.
So if you were to, you know, tell more people how to fight this battle of becoming the champions of digital transformation within their organizations, what would be the 3 things they should consider doing, you know, starting tomorrow?
Be curious. Care for people. And of course, being consistent is the key. If you are not disciplined, hoga nahi boss.
That's normally a reasonable ask, but yeah, seems to be hard, practically speaking, to apply all of this to lives. Okay, awesome. So what's the next big launch due from the Adani One application, and what do we see coming in?
There is no big launch, boss.
It's incremental, sure.
Tiny steps. Every 2 months, I'm going to onboard a use case. In next 3 to 4 quarters, you will see all the 20 use cases embedded on Adani One. So you don't need to go anywhere else. With concierge, with a great co-branded card, you can do book door to door. आप कैब बुकिंग लोगे मेरे प्लेटफॉर्म से फ्लाइट मिस करोगे मैं कवर करूंगा. That is a type of experience I want to give it to you.
You want to delve a little bit into those 20 experiences because
Yeah, so
you've done a lot of detailing there.
Flight tickets, ancillaries, duty free, meet and greet, duty paid, lounge, F&B, retail, Wi-Fi, airport maps, boarding gate, baggage belt. वो बोलता है बोर्ड हो रहा है, you know, security check-in, boarding in 10 minutes, वो plane ऊपर घूम रहा होता है. So, you know, आप उतने देर में कॉफी पी सकते हो यार. There is so much upsell, cross-sell. Then last minute hotels and there is so much. Untapped है, Visa, Forex. आप 6 से 7 transactions करते हो अलग अलग प्लेटफॉर्म पे just to plan a single travel itinerary. पूरे वर्ल्ड में नहीं है. सिंगापुर एक चीज अच्छा कर रहा है, दुबई एक चीज अच्छा कर रहा है, दोहा एक कर रहा है, हीथ्रो एक कर रहा है. एंड टू एंड नहीं है, बट वी हैव द पॉपुलेशन. 85 million people will fly from my airports. You will have 7 flight options if you need to go from Mumbai to Delhi. एयरपोर्ट ऑप्शंस कितने हैं बॉस आपके पास? नागपुर से जाके लोगे क्या फ्लाइट? मेरे से जाओगे. And that responsibility is only with me because I need to do it. Nobody can else do that for me.